All right, we're good. Sweet. So, welcome to the first episode of Minor League Maniacs. We would have been Major League Maniacs, but let's be honest, we all know we're nowhere near that. So, this is a show just about sports. We have the two Boston guys, that's me and Greg in the blue,
Yo,
and then two New York guys, that's that guy, and the one with the Giants hat, obviously. So,
their
with
names would be
that,
Ryan and Sean, respectively.
well, they'll figure that out later. Uh, so with introductions out of the way, I think we can just get right into it. So obviously today being the uh, first day of opening free agency in the NFL, even though it's technically been going on since Sue was signed this weekend, but we'll get into that later. Uh, we should probably talk about some of the key additions, the big names that have been already added, or some of the big trades. Uh, maybe I'll just start off with what do you guys think is the biggest addition to a team in the free agency so far? Like who's made the biggest impact? You guys think?
I don't know if it'll have the biggest impact in the long run, but the name that made the biggest splash today was definitely Graham. That one came out of nowhere.
That's true. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking to say too, but I mean, I don't know if Jimmy Graham will really do much in Seattle comparatively to what he was doing in New Orleans, but I think it was actually a sneaky move by New Orleans to, I mean, with Max Unger as their center, if they upgrade, get a more of a run blocking tight end, I could see Mark Ingram having a pretty good year and them sort of changing the dynamic of the offense now that Breeze is getting a little older.
Yeah, I think that's a solid point.
Yeah, I actually agree that I think the Saints came out on the top on that one. Uh, from if you look at it from a football move, I mean, if you look at it fantasy football, the sexy pick is always going to be Jimmy Graham. That's what like fans of the NFL are first going to think of.
Yeah,
But
only Gronkowski has more touchdowns in the red zone than
right,
him over like the last 3 years or something like that.
right. I mean, he's a fantastic fantasy tight end. Like he's going to get you touchdowns. He's going to get you the yards. But my problem with Graham is that he is a one-dimensional tight end, getting paid upwards of $15 million a year, and that's not worth it, in my opinion. I mean, he's a glorified. I mean, he's a tight end, but he's a wide receiver at heart. He can't block, and he's very soft, even when it comes to the passing game. And my biggest thing is for Seattle, you're going to trade a stud cheap center for and a first round pick and sort of mortgage that future for a tight end that's going to hurt you in the salary cap when you're looking to tie up young guys for the future.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, especially that first round pick. That I mean, hell, for just for the center, I think that would have been pretty bad. I don't think anyone in their right minds would have traded Unger straight up for Graham. But I mean, Unger and the first round pick, I'm like, yeah, the Saints really made out pretty well there, I think.
Saints sent what, a fourth rounder?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they added a fourth liner.
I mean,
Fourth rounder.
if Graham can stay healthy, then I think it works well for both teams. I mean, Seattle doesn't really have an offensive weapon in the passing game. They have a bunch of, above average wide receivers and then some
Right.
pedestrian ones. And Graham definitely gives you that number one threat. And if you don't respect him, then Wilson's definitely going to hurt you with his legs. It's definitely one of those ones where, like at the end of next season or even 2 or 3 seasons down the road, that's when you'll be able to really evaluate how this trade worked out for both teams. Because right now it can go either way.
Yeah, I see the thing you mentioned health, but the other thing I was thinking of when you mentioned that is the fact that this past year I think there were a couple games where Graham literally disappeared and he wasn't a factor at all in the game. And I think that's a problem Seattle might have because they don't have the wide receivers and he's really their only passing threat. So you can just double down on Graham, contain Wilson, and then you're golden in my opinion. And I think that's going to hurt him. Where in New Orleans, there was a lot more wide receiver weapons. I mean, you have Drew Brees, so I think he's going to be a lot less successful in Seattle. He may have more targets, but I don't think he's going to be anywhere near the same player that he was in New Orleans.
No, I don't think so either, but that almost helps Seattle more that they will double down on him. You can leave Baldwin, you can get killed by Lynch, you can get killed by Wilson. It's almost better if they do double him every time because that takes off so much pressure from these lower average receivers. And I think that's what makes him so great because he can still burn you for 150 yards at any time.
Right. He's still a threat. My biggest thing is I don't think he's as big a threat as he's going to be in New Orleans. So on Seattle, maybe he's like a 10% improvement or a 20% improvement compared to what they had. I mean, they made it to the Super Bowl last year. Did them adding Graham, does that make it so that they're going to get back to the Super Bowl definitely next year? Because I don't think that's a given. And if that's not a given, and then you mortgage your future, I think there's a greater possibility of them hurting themselves in the future than actually helping themselves now. And I think that's where it's too much for me when I think about it.
I think it is definitely a fair point that, yeah, they mortgage the future. I mean, I already said I agree the Saints pretty much won on this deal, but I think Ryan has a good point too, though. I mean, think about the play action coming off on that. As long as Marshawn Lynch doesn't totally shit the bed, I mean, the play action coming off of that for Graham deep down the middle or something, or even towards the sidelines, that's, I don't know. I can see that
also
being good.
That also means that they're going to have to run with Graham not being able to block, too. And will that hurt Lynch? Because to set up that play action, you can't just put Graham in every time you're going to do play action or pass. You got to put him in there when Lynch is running. And I know Lynch is good, but is that going to hurt Lynch's productivity at all?
I don't think so.
All right. I think it might, personally. All right, so what other big moves? I mean, we could talk about Sue to the Dolphins.
Has that one been finalized yet?
Yeah.
I mean,
I know it was all but I didn't know if anyone had made it official.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's several people have confirmed it, so I'd say it's going like that. So Sue to the Dolphins, improving the defensive line. Is that enough? Is that enough to compete with the Patriots, or will they finish second?
I think they still finish second. Sorry,
Yeah, no, it's all good. I think they still finish second. I think, though, the only thing I would say is I don't think that's enough to put them over the Patriots. I do think that they need Sue to be productive like he was in Detroit, first of all, obviously. But I think that's exactly the kind of position that can beat Tom Brady, is that rush up the middle, because Brady's not going anywhere, and he's not getting any younger or faster. I think they need a lot more pieces around them to actually be able to pull over the hump. But I think that's a step in the right direction for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's definitely that interior rush has given Brady headaches. In the past, the Jets were able to exploit it. The Giants in the Super Bowls, just that they got right after Brady, and most of it was up the middle. Yeah, fuck you, Sean. But yeah, it's a good pickup for them. It definitely strengthens that defense, but you need a quarterback to win in this league, and Tannehill's good, but he's not Brady. I could see them making a wild card this year if everyone stays healthy and they add a few more pieces or what have you, but I don't see him unseating the Pats from the AFC East next year.
The biggest thing I see when I look at the Dolphins is that I immediately compare them because we just played Detroit last year. And, I mean, if they use the same strategy on the Dolphins do have a slightly better secondary than the Lions do. But I don't think it's enough to actually hurt the Patriots significantly, even with that interior pass rush. Just because, I mean, if they just use the same exact scheme and strategy that they used for the Lions last year, just don't run and just go everything's outside, and they were extremely successful. So if they could do that again, especially, I mean, Miami's D-line has good defensive ends, but they're not run-stopping defensive ends. They're pass-rushing defensive ends. So if they can just avoid Sue and just keep running to the outside like they did with the Lions, I think that they can put up a lot of yards, and then Brady won't even have to do as much. That'll protect Brady in itself. And when you add that on to how huge that contract is with Sue and how risky it is, with the fact that it may not actually work out. Like, we'll find out next year, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. And when you add on to how much he costs for the only slight improvement in the way I see it, it's actually more detrimental, and I don't mind it as a Patriots fan.
I think the key for me is that I can see now with Sue the Dolphins maybe beating the Pats 1 out of 2, kind of like last year actually, but I don't see them beating enough other teams comparatively to the Patriots. The Patriots will win more games either way. Mm-hmm. I think the Dolphins get more competitive directly versus the Patriots, but overall Patriots will win more games still.
Right.
It's tough. Like Josh said, though, when it comes to that money, I mean, immediately I think Albert Hainsworth. This man can bust at any minute. You know what I mean? What is he going to do? He was great in Detroit. Can he bring that to Miami? And the thing is, Miami went from one bully to another. You get rid of Incognito and you bring in a douchebag, like, that's great for the locker room.
Yeah, Sue is still a bit unstable. I don't know about his recent fines or suspensions, but he's got it in his history, and that doesn't just go away with these guys.
No, I mean, he just did it with Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. All right, so speaking of Incognito, I'm pretty sure the Bills signed him, right?
Yeah.
Rex Ryan. So the Bills' big move, trading Kiko Alonso for LaShawn McCoy. Ryan, what do you think about that?
I mean, that's tough. I mean, Kiko's coming off a hip labrum, an ACL. He had 159, 4 interceptions, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble in 1 year. That's crazy. He's 24. Can he come back from that, though? I don't know. Mm-hmm. The thing with McCoy, he's 26. He's still got 5 years. They signed to a 5-year deal. Pretty good money. 5 years, $40 million for McCoy. That's a steal in my eyes. But the only thing is they need a quarterback. Last year, without a quarterback, he dropped 500 yards receiving because of Sanchez. I mean, that's a lot. He's a really diverse back. He needs someone to be able to throw it to him out of that. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, but the thing with Rex Ryan is last year he was third in rush offense. First year with the Jets, he was second. I mean, he's always up there. He loves to run the ball, but he loves to run it with multiple people. Can he just stick with McCoy? Because when McCoy rushes more than 20 attempts a game, it's always over 100 yards.
Wow.
I think my biggest thing, I think it served both parties exactly how they wanted it to. Because Philly obviously wants to get rid of the cap space and wants a more quicker offense where they don't rely on the run whatsoever, that Oregon fast offense. And so I think it suits what he wants. You get money off the books and your scheme's working out. And then I think the Bills Rex Ryan gets that running game that he's in love with, obviously, as we've seen with the Jets for years, and now with the Bills he's already starting it again. So obviously he loves the running game and he'll pay his running back because he thinks it works. My biggest problem was just you hear McCoy for Alonzo and you think, okay, was there a first-round draft pick with it? I mean, it just doesn't seem equivalent. And mostly Alonzo has that ability to be a great linebacker. The only thing is that he is coming off the injuries, so you'd think that his value would be a lot lower and that Philly would have been able to get something more for McCoy.
Yeah, I mean, you guys already hit on some of my major points, like the injuries and stuff, but one of the things that I kind of like to point out about this is McCoy's turning 27 this year. The year Adrian Peterson turned 27, he rushed for over 2,000 yards. The year that LaDainian Tomlinson turned 27, he rushed for 28 touchdowns. 27 is pretty much the prime year for a running back, and I know the Bills have him for 5 more years, but I mean, I don't see how a linebacker coming – he's had one good year, a linebacker coming off of an injury like that versus McCoy, who's just consistent and in his prime. And I'm not going to bother showing you guys all the stuff that I put together today, but just to say, I looked it up, and the top 5 running backs, so the running backs who rushed for the most yardage this year, their teams won 12, 11, 10, 12, and 10 games this season. The top 5 linebackers with the most tackles, their teams won 7, 11, 2, 7, and 6 games. Just putting that out there. Linebacker versus running back. I don't know what the hell Philly's doing.
I think what they're doing it's I think Chip Kelly's reaching for the guys that he wants. That's what it seems like he's doing. He's willing to overpay for anyone. I mean, Maxwell, he gave him a big contract. He's willing to trade away McCoy for lesser value, and I'm not going to be surprised when he trades 3 first-round picks to move up and get Mariota in the draft either, because I think he knows what he wants, and he's going to do anything he can to get it, even if it's overpaying for everything.
Yeah. A lot of the sense I've seen a lot from Philly is that Chip is either going to be a hero or run out of town at the end of next season. Because this is either all going to work out great, everyone's going to be like, you're such a genius, or they're going to be like, you fucking idiot, what were you doing?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, he got rid of their 2 best offensive players, Macklin Macklin wasn't a plan. I think they meant to keep him, but they still lost him. So now they got rid of their 2 best offensive players. I mean, Zach Ertz, yeah, like.
That's a good point. Yeah, they're not going to have that. They're not going to have anything like the offense they had last year. It's almost like they're completely rebuilding after having one good year and then kind of a down year, but mostly because of Foles' injury. And then now it's like they're in a complete rebuilding phase out of nowhere.
Yeah, Foles is gone now too.
Yeah, Sam Bradford era.
God.
I forgot about that move.
But why re-sign Sanchez? I don't get that move.
Yeah, I didn't. If it clearly seemed like they had other quarterback intentions, whether it was you're trying to go after Mariota or bringing in someone else. Why extend the Sanchez? It doesn't.
I don't know.
I think they're giving up on this next year, and they're building long-term young guys, or Maxwell with the longer contract, and Sanchez 2 years on a low deal budget. He's a veteran guy who. He isn't going to give you a 16-game season that's good, but he'll give you like 2 good games and then 4 bad games, which is good enough when you're rebuilding anyway. And then Bradford in case anything happens, even though most likely it's going to happen to Bradford if anything happens. But
yeah, actually, also, by the way, they're paying Bradford. I don't think they're restructuring the contract or anything. What I heard on the radio today was that they're paying him big bucks. I can't remember what it was. It was like $12 million or something. I can't remember. But yeah, exactly. I mean, they're paying. Sanchez isn't starting. It's Bradford. He's the guy.
Right. He must still be on his rookie deal. Because he was the last first-round pick to get that like mega rookie deal before they restructured, so he must be getting it. But I just think them doing Bradford and Sanchez is literally him saying, yeah, we're going after Mariota, and these guys are going to start for a little while, maybe not even the whole season. But Mariota needs time, so I brought in a couple of veteran guys to give us some throws while we rebuild this year.
Give the receivers some practice.
Yeah. All right, so we covered most of the AAFC East. So, I mean, we can go quick on the...
I mean, yeah, the Giants picked up Vereen, which I think is a good deal for the Giants. I like Vereen. I would have liked to keep him, but I think he's going to fit well with the Giants as long as he stays healthy. And then they, of course, didn't pick up the option on either Browner or Revis, so they're both pending right now.
Yeah, I think the Vereen fit is pretty good for the Giants. I was actually initially kind of stumped because I liked Jennings last year. I thought he was solid. I like Williams still. I think he's got to develop some ball carrier vision. We got to upgrade the line a little bit. So I liked those guys, and I wasn't really sure why that was our first, free agent move. But I kind of heard a couple points that he's kind of a good West Coast back. He can catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. Now we've got 3 decent running backs, so if we get an injury, we're still okay. At the end of the day, I'm actually pretty happy with the move, although initially I was a little bit puzzled.
Yeah, he was always the passing back out of New England. The only time he wasn't was when Ridley went down and before they got Blunt, so they didn't really have an option. They were just like, well, screw it, I guess we're throwing Vereen in here. But before he was always like the screen pass back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he'll be your third down running back. He can't. He's not effective if he starts every down. That's just not his game. He can't run up the middle. He's too weak. And the minute he gets touches, he goes down. He's a pass-catching third down running back, and I'm sure that's how the Giants will utilize him.
Absolutely. I mean, Jennings and Williams are actually both pretty boss up the middle, so that's exactly what we needed. Eli to have a dump-off option, pretty much.
Right. And I mean, it's a pretty good deal. I mean, $4 million a year, and you never know how much of that is guaranteed or incentive based either. So,
Right.
but minor New England news. Most people won't even probably notice, but the Giants also signed Jonathan Casillas for
Yeah, I
a
saw that.
$10 million. Yeah. So he's a
Wait,
so
who? What?
Jonathan Casillas. He's
He
like
is-
a backup linebacker, mostly a special teamer. He's
Yeah.
played some solid minutes for the Pats this year.
Yeah, but $10 million is like ridiculous for him. I'm assuming
Yeah.
that that's like all incentive based, or that contract doesn't
It's
make any
gotta
sense.
be.
How many years is that?
3, I think. 3, 10.5.
I guess that's not so bad. I mean,
It's just a lot for a special team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless the Giants know something that we don't.
Right?
He's their stud middle linebacker next year.
I mean, Jerry Reese has pretty much proved to be like a, either a holy shit, you're a genius, or like a why did we take that guy?
Yeah.
So you never know.
All right.
Casillas
So,
was one of those guys you never noticed until he made just like a huge tackle on a punt or something.
so elephant in the room, Revis and Browner are now free agents.
Yeah.
So Greg, what do you think is going to happen?
So I read earlier that Revis and his agent said that right now they have an offer for like 43 mil in 3 years with 40 million guaranteed. And I really don't know. In my heart of hearts, I want him to come back to the Patriots, and I think the Patriots will give him more than fair for the dollar amount. I think if there's any time where he's not gonna just take the highest offer, it's gonna be now. He's made his money. He's been smart with it. He's played on enough losing teams. He's now tasted a championship. If he wants another one, he knows that this is where he should be.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is what worries me is he's been a mercenary his whole career. Like
right,
you said,
and he's never hidden that.
Right. Is he
I was
gonna?
gonna say, it's gonna be real hard to walk away from 40 million guaranteed, let alone a $40
That's the
million
thing. If that's the
contract as
guaranteed
it
number,
is.
Right. I think the biggest thing is if the Patriots pay him. My thing is if the Patriots pay him as the best cornerback in football, so they pay him more than Sherman, and then
Right.
the Jets offer him $10 million more. Is he gonna go for that $10 million more or whatever? That's what I want to know. Because you're already getting paid as the best cornerback in the league, and over the last 8 years, no defensive player has been paid more than Revis. So it's not like he's hurting, but then there's also his history of being a mercenary that is
right.
very worrying.
I think it depends on the guaranteed, exactly like we were saying. I mean, you said 10 million more from the Jets versus the Patriots. Well, how much of each was guaranteed? If it's just flat and let's say guaranteed full contract, then maybe we have a question of Jets versus Patriots. But I would be surprised if he didn't go with the guaranteed money.
What's the Jets fans' perspective?
I think the biggest thing, he stays in AFC East. He could go to the Bills. He loves Rex Ryan. He loves his
I've heard
team.
the Bills are already out on him.
They are. Jets, they're going to give up the money. They don't care. They want him back. He loves New York. And I think with Revis is he doesn't care about, I got the taste, I want another championship. He could give two shits. He wants money. This is his last time to get that big money. And if he's gonna go for whatever he's gonna get. I hope New England, if they're smart, I'm a Jets fan. I would love to have him back. I'll give both my testicles for him. But if the Patriots were smart, he was a huge factor in their season.
We don't win that Super Bowl without Revis.
You don't. So if I was a Patriots guy, I know you don't like giving money away, but give that man his money.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. If the Patriots don't come back with Revis, then I'm not expecting them to win a Super Bowl next year, personally, because they don't have they have great linebackers and a great defensive line, but they don't have one good enough to make up the difference it's going to be when you have Logan Ryan or Butler or Dennard playing cornerback where Revis used to. It's just it's too big of a drop-off to expect it.
Getting McCourty back was big. He's Like he's a key piece of that. But without Revis, like McCourty and Revis were the two like linchpins of that defense. Those two guys were what allowed Patricia to scheme the rest of the defense. Without those two guys, we're playing a totally different defense next year, especially now without
absolutely. Right, and I think you saw something that what Patriots have been wanting for years is to get those man-on corners so you can play some nickel and Arrington's on your slot guy. You got your two outside cornerbacks covering man-on-man, and then that helps because you don't have that defensive pass rush that you need. So Belichick loves contain, so he can play his little contain while your cornerbacks are just not letting anyone get open, and it worked perfectly. And if Revis goes and if Browner ends up leaving too, then you just have to have McCourty, and you have to go back to that cover two. And they're not with their pass rush. They're not going to be able to cover guys long enough, and you're going to have a lot more open guys next year.
Yeah, they're going to have to go back to scoring 45 points a game.
Right.
The only thing I will say is, even if you go back to that cover two, there's no quarterback in the AFC that can hit those open guys, so you're fine.
Yeah, I'm still not worried about the AFC East if we lose Revis. I'm thinking playoffs at that point. Teams like Baltimore and. If we make it to the Super Bowl, Seattle or Green Bay, like those are the teams that scare me.
Dude, Baltimore's done. They lost Nada. They lost Torrey Smith. He can't.
Yeah, that's
Flacco
true.
can't throw Flacco bombs.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's only when I think of what could happen to the Patriots. I just look at the rest of the AFC and I'm just like, wow, it doesn't matter because the AFC is just so weak. Like we could lose Revis and Browner and still end up in the Super Bowl. I don't think we'll win against an NFC opponent. But we'll still at least end up there because of just how weak. I mean, Manning's playing on his last leg, and he just lost almost all of his weapons. They had to tag Thomas, and Baltimore's losing.
I do think Owen Daniels was a good pickup for them, though.
Right. I mean, he's not going to be Julius Thomas, but
no, but
sleeper fantasy pick. Sleeper fantasy pick.
Maybe off the middle.
Maybe I'm wrong about this, and I wouldn't be. This isn't exactly like a firm prediction, but I don't think Julius Thomas wasn't with the Broncos for like a year or two before Peyton, and he just did nothing. I mean, I'm pretty sure
makes tight ends.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm pretty sure that Owen Daniels will go into Denver, and Julius Thomas won't be missed, and Julius Thomas won't do anything in Jacksonville either because there's no one to throw to him there either.
Yeah. So if anyone wants Julius Thomas for my fantasy team now, I mean, all right. So what about? I don't think we've talked about the Jets yet. So Ryan.
Yeah.
Any additions to the Jets?
Well, I mean, obviously you got Brandon Marshall, good pickup. I mean, you gave away a 5th-round pick. Who cares? Jets never have fucking picks in the draft anyways, and if we do, we blow them. So that's fine.
Spoken like a true Jets fan.
It's true, man. Think about everybody we passed up from Elway to Marino to Warren Sapp. It's been a fucking...
Brady.
Well, everyone passed on
Yeah,
Brady 5 times.
But I mean, it's a low risk, high reward play. I mean, we dropped Harvin today, who might go to the Pats. Good, take him. He sucks. All right, so that's
I don't really want Harvin.
But other than that, I mean, if we get Revis or really hard, we re-sign David Harris, which he is a great middle linebacker, true Jet. That's a great pickup. 100+ tackles every year of his career. I mean, they're looking good, but they don't have a quarterback, so they still suck.
What do you think they're going to do for a quarterback?
I think, well, I mean, if they don't get Hoyer, I haven't seen, maybe Hoyer left today. I don't know. I didn't look too hard into that. But, I mean, if they don't get him, I hope they trade Philly for like 5 first-round picks for Mariota. And, we ride out fucking some guy. We sign Brett Favre. I don't know.
I would love that.
But, I mean, you've got receivers. Decker's a great receiver. Marshall's a great receiver. Jeremy Curley's a great slot guy. You've got Ivory, who can, is a good runner, hard-nosed runner. You got the pieces. You need, like, one more piece. Can they do it?
How's the line look?
I mean, you still got Mangold. You got DeBrickashaw on his down end, but DeBrickashaw can still play. I mean, it's not a great line, but it's not bad.
Right. All right. I think that's most of the trades or additions to teams that have really gone down, at least the big ones.
Did you hear about Walker?
Yeah, I heard he retired at like
Yeah.
26.
26.
Yeah.
That one surprised me a little bit.
I wonder if anyone. I mean, you make pretty good money even as like a backup on the practice squad. I'm pretty sure you make like $6,000 a week. It's not like it's chump change, but
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'll take $2 million to hold a clipboard.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, he said he
Andre
just like
Johnson.
didn't have the drive anymore. So he's like, I don't have the drive that it takes to play at this level. I'm just not feeling it, so I'm gonna retire. Like that's what he said.
The Titans are probably like, you couldn't have told us that like before we drafted you. Like, come on.
We known you were gonna bitch out 4 years in.
Right. Did Andre Johnson end up signing somewhere? He's going to Indy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Gore. Yeah. That's
Actually,
who
I don't know if that's final, but he definitely is like.
I heard they were like flying in on Ursay's
Yeah.
plane.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Yeah.
It's probably loaded with cocaine.
One of the radio guys I was listening to likened it to the Austin Powers airplane.
That would be
trash.
Ursay.
I think the not a trade but a pickup, and Kaepernick reminds me a lot of Flacco and his arm and how deep he can throw. Torrey Smith, though overpaid for him, I think will be a huge factor in San Francisco.
Yeah,
All right.
it could be.
I can see it.
I mean, you don't got Gore. I mean, you
Yeah, they
gave
got
up
half
pretty
the
much
front.
everything else.
Oh, there's new. Adam Schefter just tweeted that Jabal Shurd is visiting the Pats tonight.
Who?
Jabal Shurd. I think he was drafted in 2011.
Second round pick out of Pittsburgh. Thank
He
you,
went-
Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, that was when we drafted Razai Dowling instead of Shurd. Yeah, that one worked out.
Fucking Dowling.
Razai never see the field Dowling.
Yeah.
So is he a cornerback? I don't know.
Since we touched on the 49ers, I kind of want to. What about Patrick Willis retiring? That one actually took me.
Yeah.
I was very surprised by that.
Well, you got to protect that toe from injuries.
I heard he's going to do like some charity work in Philly. Like he's working with like a kids foundation, and that's what he's retiring to do. Which, I mean, good on him. It's still surprising that he would do it at 30 years old, but
I like how it's like Harbaugh leaves, and then the entire team, all the players are like, well, we're out of here. See you
Well,
later.
yeah,
can
this is
you
a rough
blame
week
him?
to be a
Like-
49ers fan.
Can you blame them? Like before Harbaugh showed up, they were always this super talented team that could never achieve, and then all of a sudden, the coach that made them finally achieve leaves. Like, I'm getting the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
That's true.
The thing with Willis, though, is he's been battling back issues, and this isn't the first time he's contemplated retirement. He actually did it 2 years ago at 28. So I really wasn't surprised. He played through injury. I mean, he's a great football player.
Yeah.
But, yeah, his time's done.
So
I mean,
what do
and
you guys
better to
think
walk
about-
away now than before he gets like his knees destroyed or something.
Right.
Yeah, I guess. He's just still really young. It's just
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, I agree with it too. I mean, especially for a player that good, you don't usually see them retire until they're literally on their last legs.
Yeah. Like Welker. Or his last head, basically.
Yeah.
He has none left.
The ringing's getting louder.
Yeah. All right. What do you guys think about the legal tampering / Miami signing Sue this weekend during the illegal tampering and just everyone announcing it to the world?
I have no problem with this legal tampering period if the NFL is going to make this and allow it to happen. But you can't do that and then investigate teams for it. Like you can't go, okay, yeah, you guys are allowed to negotiate, and then get mad when your own Twitter feed is breaking stories of these guys supportedly agreeing to terms before free agency.
That's
The
personally
investigation
what,
was wrong.
yeah, that's what personally made me laugh. Is that the NFL's actual Twitter feed is tweeting out these, this person's rumored to go here and this person's rumored to go here, and I was just like, and then they come out with the investigation. It's like, well, you were like making
instrumental in this.
Right, and I think that's just part of their thing. They like to stay in the news, so they're just going to investigate basically anything that possibly can go on.
Yeah. Anyone who takes the words NFL investigation seriously at this point, like, you need to reevaluate your life choices.
Yeah. After the past year, it's getting to a point of being ridiculous.
And the problem is, we all still consume the NFL like it's crack.
Yeah.
Frank,
It dominates.
the Philadelphia Eagles for a while, but after you just heard Shady McCoy and
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah. You're welcome.
One thing we didn't touch on that I kind of wanted to touch on was the Browner, them not picking up his option, and what people's theories were on that. I mean, I can just start my theory personally, is that they need to do it to get the Revis deal done, because they know someone out there has a large amount of money with Revis, so they know they have to go higher, but they can't without restructuring, or really not just restructuring, but having Browner take a pay cut.
Yeah.
So I think what they basically did is went to Browner and said, hey, we need you to take a pay cut. And Browner's like, nope. So he said, well, you guys can go out. I mean, you and your agent can go out and look at some teams and see what your value is. And then they came back and said, our value's higher, or at least the same. And Belichick said, no, that's not true, and cut him. And he's going to basically call his bluff and is daring Browner to either find a team that is offering more, which Belichick doesn't think there will be one, or he comes back to the Patriots for less money.
Yeah. I that would not surprise me at all if that's the case. I think a lot of teams are scared off by the amount of penalties that Browner drew. But I think a part of that is his style, and if you tell him to not play physical, he's not going to be as effective. But a lot of that was they weren't throwing to Revis, so they had to throw to Browner. Mm-hmm. So he was getting more targets, and you're going to get called for PI a lot more when they're chucking most of the balls towards you as opposed to your partner on the other side of the field. I don't know. I definitely think that we won't hear about Browner until after the Revis deal is finalized, though. I agree on that.
Oh, really? See, I think we'll hear about Browner before Revis. Or if we hear about Revis, it means Browner is coming back. Because, I mean, if we don't, I doubt that they'll overpay for Browner. They're not going to pay him more.
Oh, no.
So if Revis leaves, and then I think that's why it was kind of daring by Belichick. It's a very risky move, but one that I guess he thinks will pay off, where, he doesn't think Browner's going to get the money, and he thinks he'll come back for less, and they can pay Revis. But I think if one goes, I don't think either one of them is coming back if one of them leaves.
And it's tough to pay both of them. You know what I mean? The whole time in New England.
There's a lot of teams who will pay for Browner. A lot of teams who could use him as a number one corner, not their number two like the Pats did last year.
Right. I definitely think that Browner's a little overrated though, because I don't think he's the same cornerback without Revis. Because I think he needs to play off of that physical nature. So I don't think he's going to be as good if he's just covering like number ones the entire time.
His size is his biggest advantage.
Right.
You can match him up with those 6'7" freak receivers, and he's going to have a chance in the jump balls, whereas the smaller, quicker cornerbacks are just going to get outpowered.
Right. Okay, I think that's it on Browner.
Sean, you wanted to talk about McCoy?
I just figured. Well, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, he's still out there. All sorts of teams are talking to him now. I've heard Jacksonville, Oakland, Philly, even. I don't know. I don't really know what to think. I just wanted to hear what you guys had to say about it.
I think he's going to get overpaid, and then he's going to get hurt.
Yeah, if he goes to Philly looks like the biggest idiots because the money you're going to have to pay Murray and you let McCoy go.
Seriously.
But I mean, I can see him in Oakland.
Yeah, I bet my bet is he'll go to Oakland. I think Philly's just doing the thing where they try to drive the price up for Dallas in case Dallas is in on it. I highly doubt that Philly's seriously contending for him, but you never know.
I think so too. Yeah, I think a likely landing spot is if he doesn't go back to Dallas. It's just one of these crappy teams that just needs to sell some tickets.
They just
going to say, hey, we have
dump truck full of money up to his door.
Right. So here's all your money, and go out there and try to rush for 2,000 yards, you're our only hope. Like someone with no quarterback that's just going to run out Murray constantly until he basically breaks something.
Yeah, which will be like week 6.
Right. Yeah. Well, it reminded me because someone mentioned Oakland. I heard Terrence Knighton on pot roast from the Broncos.
Yeah.
Apparently, no one's interested in him. He even went to Oakland, and Oakland said no.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, think about that. When Oakland doesn't want you. Apparently, there's really big concerns about his weight. Because he's like growing in weight without gaining muscular. Like you have Wilfork, who is like muscular under his fat and quick, where Knighton is literally just a fat guy that stands in the middle.
And Wilfork came back from an Achilles injury last year, so if anybody, if anyone had any doubts about Wilfork, after the year he had last year, that should be gone. But with a guy like Knighton, he hurts his ankle, his Achilles, whatever. Like guys that big don't recover from leg injuries.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny that Oakland was like, nah, we'll pass.
Seriously, that's good. That's going to be like an NFL low point.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what team he ends up on and if he gets as much as what people were thinking. Because people thought he'd be the highest defensive tackle. And now I think that helps Wilfork. At one point I thought Wilfork might have come back, but if Knighton isn't on anyone's radar, I think Wilfork might end up getting more money than most people thought.
Houston's really interested in Wilfork, right?
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Bolster that defensive line. They have the pass rushes, obviously, but they need the run stoppers.
Right.
So Wilfork would be a perfect addition for a team that already has a great defensive line. And plus, I'd kind of like to see him on a team where he can do something and kind of compete.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where even though he's not wearing a Patriots uniform next year, most likely, I will always root for Vince Wilfork.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see.
Hard not to root for him.
Yeah.
In Detroit, though, I mean, after you lose Sue and you lose Nick Farley, they need someone in the middle.
Dan Williams is
Detroit?
still. Yeah, he's talking about Detroit. Dan Williams from Arizona is still out there, but I heard rumors the Giants were talking to him, and I really hope we sign him. But I think he's going to be a sneaky good signing for whoever lands him.
Yeah, I hadn't even heard his name before, so.
Is he just a run stopper?
Yeah, basically, it's traditional 4-3. So he was the run stopper, whereas Darnell Dockett, they kind of played off each other. Dockett was the inside guy who more did the pass rushing. I mean, obviously DT, you're still a run stopper, but his specialty was more rushing the passer, I believe. And Dan Williams was and that's the thing too. He's under the radar. That's why I kind of mentioned him. He's not very many people have heard of him, but he's a solid DT.
Yeah.
Isn't Dockett still on the market?
Nope, he signed with the 49ers actually.
Did he?
All right. Well, I think that's really all the big names in the NFL that have gone by since I last checked my Twitter feed. Who knows what's gone on since I haven't.
I was just scrolling through it right now. I didn't see anything.
Right. If something happens, we can talk about it, obviously. But we are in spring training right now, so we'll switch gears a little bit to go to baseball. Let's see. The most interesting off-season moves. I mean, it's pretty easy for Red Sox fans, but what about Yankees fans? Is there anything out there that's making you excited for the coming season?
Lester went to the Cubs, so I don't have to deal with his ass.
Addition by subtraction.
The Cubs are the biggest bullshit team. I don't understand why people like them so much. They suck.
That's why people like them.
I mean, if you look, Lester it was a great signing. They paid a lot of money. Jake Arrieta, he's a 500 pitcher. Hamels, below 500 pitcher. Their closer blew 15% of his saves last year. Like, what are you doing? The Cubs are terrible.
Yeah, but they have a pretty good. It's because they have a lot of young guys. I mean, they have like 3 top 50 prospects just at shortstop alone, and then you have guys coming up at third base. You have outfield guys. I mean, they have a lot of depth in their farm system, and they're all coming up at the same time. Didn't they? They ended up getting Addison Russell in one of the trades too, I think. Yeah, for Samardzija, and so that's a shortstop. Did they end up dealing Castro? Or they still have Starlin Castro too. They have a lot of young guys, and a lot of good young guys.
Yeah, but they're all
But,
not all of them, but a lot.
they have the most in baseball. But they don't have the pitching. You're right about that. There isn't the pitching there. Right. So as a Red Sox fan, the Hanley signings and the Pablo Sandoval signings were exciting, but also kind of interesting because you had a lot of people on the opposite ends. Because I guess in this kind of world, we are used to doing looking for certain numbers from hitters, and now that we're post-steroid era, those numbers are going down at a very fast, rapid rate. So while Pablo's numbers and Hanley's numbers may not look as good if you were going to compare them to the past numbers of most batters, I think if you look at comparing them to now, they're pretty good numbers. And you really have to pay for those type of players, unfortunately, now. I think the biggest risks you're looking at is just that, Hanley does have a tendency of getting injured a lot. And if he plays 150 or even 130 games, he can be one of the best outfielders in the game. He can put up 25 home runs easily and be as close to a 5-tool guy as you'll ever see. And the thing with Pablo is just that, can he stick at third base? For me, he's just a future DH guy once Ortiz leaves. And his OPS has dropped every year for the past 4 years. And that's really unnerving because that's kind of a common theme we're seeing on the Red Sox with Pedroia, Victorino, even Ortiz, even though Ortiz had a really ridiculously high OPS. So it's kind of normal for him to come back down. He is coming back down and aging. So it's kind of a lot of money for those guys, but it's one of those things where you just kind of have to wait and see if Charrington hit gold or if they're going to be busts. Because it's the way I see it, it's 50-50 right now. But it is exciting, at least, to see those guys hitting in your lineup.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't really have much to add on it because I didn't watch much of those guys. Obviously I know the names, but I don't follow anyone other than the Red Sox, and I barely do that until the postseason. My favorite story so far has been Shane Victorino coming out and saying he has nothing left to prove other than staying healthy, and then he sits out a week for general soreness.
Right.
What are you doing, Shane?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like he's trying to give Betts his spot. Because you have everyone's saying that Betts can be a great hitter. We need a leadoff hitter. Desperately, as we've seen from the drop-off between Ellsbury to what we had last year, either Nava or Victorino when they were in. So we desperately need a leadoff hitter, and I don't think that Victorino is a good leadoff hitter. He's a number 2 guy, and at his age, I'm not even sure he can be a number 2 guy anymore. He should really be hitting at the bottom of the lineup. Yeah. So for it to be like that. So we really need Betts, and if Victorino isn't going to be healthy anyway, then that's just going to help Betts even more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys have seen, but the Rusney Castillo signing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys have any opinions on him. No?
My opinion on who?
Viva Cuba.
I'm back now.
Rusney Castillo.
Yeah, I'm like Greg. I'm working on it. I'm working on baseball. My contribution to the MLB right now is that I'm not really looking forward to the Yankees this year. We need a lot of our pitching needs to basically be what it max out on the ceilings of all of them, and then Pineda needs to come back, not cheat, and actually pitch well. Tanaka needs to pitch well. Everybody needs to basically, and then maybe we can generate enough runs to win a few games.
Just a few?
Spirit of optimism.
Like 5 games, Hardy? That's how we're going to win?
Yeah, right. That's
Come on, give him some
If he
credit.
gets double digits, he'll be happy.
I'm not that.
I think
I'm not that clueless to baseball.
I think if they go 500, I think this could be the first year since like 1990 or something, 1992 or something like that, where they actually don't go 500.
Not happening. Not happening.
I really think so. I just don't. Well, Hardy just mentioned the pitching. Sabathia is a 4.5 ERA guy now. Pineda will be over 4. The only guy you have is Tanaka, and his elbow or shoulder is hanging on by a string of a ligament right now. So who knows when that thing's gonna fall apart? And they don't have a bullpen. Their bullpen's all over the
They
place.
have one of the best bullpens in the league right now.
No, they not after this offseason. They don't. They
They
haven't
picked up
replaced
Andrew
anybody.
Miller. Ben Course they still have. They picked up 2 left-handers. They have a good bullpen.
They have a closer.
Yeah.
Who?
The Dolores Bellincourse. I don't know. He's fucking Spanish.
Yeah, exactly. He's not.
He was their setup man last year, and he allowed like friggin' 1.2 earned run average, struck out more than their closer did.
Yeah, I just don't. There's just it's too unproven to me. You
I mean, the
some
thing is not even
left-handers,
that. I
especially
mean,
with
I think our pitching is. I agree with Ryan. Our pitching isn't like horrible, but our offense is just not going to make up for it enough. I mean, our pitching is not the best. It's not the worst. It'll get us by, but our offense just won't generate enough runs to compensate for that, I think.
Yeah, my biggest thing is that you need somewhat. I mean, you don't need a fantastic pitching staff anymore because any pitching will really get it done with the decrease in home runs and runs in general. But you need depth, which the Yankees don't have. I mean, I honestly can't tell you who their number 5 starter is going to be, and I don't think they even know who their number 5 starter is going to be yet, or I'm not even sure their number 4. And so you have that problems, and I think personally that they have problems in the bullpen. And then when you add on top of that their lineup is basically about as close to a minor league lineup as you can get at this point. It just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. How
They're either fresh out of the crib or they're like 70 years old at this point.
You guys are.
They're not.
Look, Ryan,
Well,
I'm with
it's
you,
true.
man. I'm gonna be there watching and rooting with you, but I'm not very optimistic about it.
The Yankees starting rotation last year, all 5 pitchers missed more than 30 games. All right, that's huge. Last year we did not have A-Rod. Beltran was out more than half the year. Teixeira was out more than half the year. Jeter, I love him. He's a god. I pray to him every night. He was terrible last year, but it was his last year, so they kept him in. All right, the Yankees had nothing last year, way worse than they did this year. They had Headley for only half the year. They had Prado for only half the year. They literally had nothing, and they almost made the playoffs. They were 5 games out. So you're telling me with E-Rod back, Teixeira, yeah, he might get hurt, but he's back. Beltran's back. You signed a couple of guys that come back. I mean, how do you say that? We have great backups. Garrett Jones at first base, our backup. We have A-Rod who can back up third base. I don't get it.
I think it's because last year was an anomaly. I don't think you can be that bad again and compete, and I think they're going to be that bad again. I think they're putting out basically the same product, and then just hoping that they have the same outcome as they did last year. So I think it's like playing with fire twice. Like you got away with it the first time, and then you roll it the same thing and hope you can do it again the next year.
I don't see how we could incur so many injuries. I mean, again, Soriano didn't even play last year. Everyone, like the year before.
You're naming guys who are like 38, so that's how you can get injured. All those guys can get injured again because they're all like 38 years old.
I'm saying this year they have backups. Chris Young is the backup in the outfield. Garrett Jones is the backup to Teixeira. Brendan Ryan's a great backup shortstop. Didi is a great defensive man.
All right, so you can just rely on the Yankees making the playoffs with a bad pitching staff and backups in your lineup?
Yeah.
All right.
This is going to be a fun conversation as the year goes on.
That's 75% more than what we had last year.
It also helps that Josh is the quintessential troll, and he's just going to push Ryan's buttons.
Oh, he just hates on everything the Yankees do. And then the Yankees will make the playoffs, and he'll go, yeah, I told you that.
No, I'm being honest, though. I'm not even trolling. Like I just don't like if they were good, I would say it. I'm not going to be like retarded about it, but they're not good.
Yeah, that's
Like
what
I
I say
think.
about the Cowboys every year.
Well, I mean I
Look
do
where that got me.
The thing though is though for real, Baltimore is terrible now. They lost Cruz. They lost their pitching. They lost. Chris Davis is taking roids. You look at Tampa. They lost Madden. They lost Will Myers. They lost their pitching. Tampa sucks. Toronto's good, and the Boston went up. I mean, Orioles won it last year, and now they're going to be a seller team. They're going to do what the Red Sox did, first to worst.
I think. Yeah, I mean, Tampa's going to finish last in the division, and then Oakland doesn't have the pitch. I mean, Orioles don't have the pitching just like they did last year, and they did lose some guys, but yeah, Chris Davis is suspended, so they're not going to have their own production as they did last year. And Toronto, it feels like Toronto for the past 3 years have been the team that's going to take the AL East with all these new additions, and then they just don't do anything. You have Edwin Encarnacion and Jose Bautista hitting back-to-back, and somehow you can't do anything. I think the difference this year is, well, maybe it's the difference, we'll see, is that they do have some young guys coming up, even though Stroman just tore his ACL. But, I mean, they have Daniel Norris coming up, which they didn't have in the past, really. So maybe they'll do something different. But I think that's – and then you have the Yankees, who I think are going to be in the basement almost, if Tampa wasn't so bad. Maybe if the Orioles suck really, really bad. So I think if
Keep throwing safety nets in there. Keep throwing safety nets because the Yankees are going to be there, baby.
at the basement, yeah.
No.
No, but seriously. Maybe now that they have 2 wild card spots, you'll only be like 8 out of the second wild card spot by the end of the year. So at least you'll be like close.
That's how it was this year.
But my thing is I think with the Red Sox, the thing I like is that they do have, I mean, they have question marks, obviously, like every other team in the AL East. But I think their question marks are less significant because they do have a lot of ground ball pitchers that can pitch, under a 4 ERA, which is nice, and they have 5 of them, and then they have a lot of young guys in AAA that can come up, and then they should have a good lineup. I mean, if the biggest thing with the Red Sox is there are a lot of guys on there who are probably going to get injured, and that's what scares me the most. Who knows what Victorino only plays 120 games, and Castillo's already been injured like 3 times with that oblique. And if he only plays 130 games, and if Pedroia missed time last year, and he really, as he's aging, he needs to sit more because he's being less productive without sitting, so he needs to play less games. And then everyone's always waiting for Ortiz as he ages to miss games. And then I'm missing someone else that always misses games, but Hanley. If Hanley only plays 130 games, that's a lot of guys that you can end up losing. And they have the depth, but I think their biggest problem right now is they actually need to trade some of that depth because they have a lot of guys sitting on the bench that shouldn't be sitting on the bench. Yeah. And the problem is they're going to have to trade those guys, and then what happens when Victorino, Hanley, and Castillo are all out for a month or something? Then you need those guys again. So that's what worries me the most. I think if this team stays healthy, if they have another year like they did in 2013 where they were, stayed relatively healthy, they can go back to the World Series again. But if they miss a bunch of time, they're just going to be another wild card team that would have to get hot at the right time when they hit the playoffs.
Yeah. The thing about the AL East, though, is that the Royals that made the series, they lost a whole bunch of people. There's no way the Royals be what they were last year. Oakland, who was really hot last year, traded away a lot of pieces. They got a lot back. You don't know what they're going to be. Really, this AL, which is usually stacked, there's like nothing.
Yeah, and there's not really that much in the NL either. It's just you have like the Braves who are supposed to be good and the Tigers who are supposed to be good who always like fail either in the playoffs or at the end of the year, and then a bunch of other teams that have a bunch of question marks. So I think it's going to be which team stays the healthier and which team has the most depth and gets hot at the right times and just plays a consistent season. Yeah. But it's definitely wide open this year, absolutely.
Josh, you sound like the typical sports interview. It's like, yeah, we want to go out there, score more points than the other team. I think as long as we have more possessions, don't turn over the ball.
Just going to take it one play at a time.
Thanks, Hardy. I appreciate that. I've always wanted to be a typical sports guy, so. All right. New pace of play rules.
Yeah, so I have them written
Anybody
down.
want to touch
So I
on
just
that?
rattle them off.
Josh, the manager thing I think that you wrote down on our little sheet there was that if you want to walk somebody, you don't have to do the 4 pitches anymore. You just put up the 4 fingers. The manager puts 4 fingers up, and they just automatically walk him.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I hadn't heard about that.
What if
All right,
that?
the ones that. What?
I was gonna say, what's that? What if that's part of your stolen base call, and you mess them up?
So the ones that I've saw were managers must make challenges from the dugout. They can't run out onto the field and talk to the ump and make a challenge from there. I guess the point of that is so that they don't go out and delay while the video guy goes, oh, is this something we should review? And then they make the call.
Instead, they're just going to have the batter sit there and not go into the box.
Right.
until they talk to their guy.
Yeah, and then hitters have to keep 1 foot in the batter's box between pitches, barring an exception, which is like a foul ball or a wild pitch. Play must resume promptly following commercial breaks, why should that even need to be said? Only in the MLB. And then the violations of this will result in fines. They're not actually going to cost balls or strikes or anything because they're trying to break the players' bad habits.
Right.
Also, apparently they tested this last year with a pitch clock, which the MLB is not instituting, and it only made games about 10 minutes shorter on the average.
Yay. So worth it, right?
Yeah, it's baseball game lasts, 3.5 hours?
Yeah, I mean, that's the same length basically as a football game, and I think the problem is not that baseball games are too long, it's just there's not as much excitement. That's what people need. People don't need them to go faster, you just need to make things happen. I don't know how you do that, but...
Yeah, it's not in the game. Unless
right, that's just not how baseball is.
I mean, when you think about football seems like this crazy, exciting sport, and then you break it down, and it's like a minute of commercials.
And 11 minutes of actual game time.
Right, you watch them make a play call, they pass for 5 seconds, something happens, and then we start from the beginning again. But for some reason, that 11 minutes of actual game time is the most exciting 11 minutes of your life. And that's just something the NFL brings that baseball can't bring because, I mean, the biggest thing, people don't like pitching duels. Personally, I love pitching duels. I think that's why I like baseball because I can sit and watch a one game. But most people just want to see home runs and runs scored, which is going to make the game longer. But people don't care as long as there's something happening, which is why baseball was so popular during the steroid era and why it's declining now.
Right. The thing is with baseball is a pitching duel is going to go faster than a slugfest because people aren't going to be scoring as much. The innings are going to go quicker. But like you said, there's not the excitement, and they're not bringing in new fans with that, which is what they want. Their demographic is getting older. No one who isn't already a baseball fan wants to see a pitcher's duel. Right. Someone who's like, hey, sit down and watch this game with me, they're going to sit through 3 innings of that and be like, dude, someone jack a home run already.
Mm-hmm. I think what the MLB should target more is not the 20-year-olds, because I think as 20-year-olds age, they're going to like baseball more. Because right now, a 20-year-old doesn't want to sit down for a game once every single day. You know what I mean? They want to go out, they want to party. They're not going to sit at a weekend game. But as you age, you get kids. Sometimes you just want to sit down and watch a baseball game. That's just how it is. And I think they're worried too much about the now and not seeing that in the future that people will still like baseball. I think that baseball is just going to turn into a neat niche sort of sport like hockey or NASCAR or something like that, which I don't think is necessarily bad. But I think that's where it's headed.
I'm not sure it'll ever get to that point. I think that you also have the decline in the popularity of baseball hitting at the same time that fantasy sports has skyrocketed the NFL.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The NFL didn't used to dominate the American sports landscape the way it does now. Baseball was America's pastime 80 years ago, but it started to trail off a little bit at the same time the NFL peaked.
Right. I think what helps there too is that the NFL embraced gambling like a lot. They fully embraced gambling. It was like, yes, please gamble on our sport. Where the MLB was very slow to it. I mean, especially with the whole Pete Rose thing. I mean, it was like basically taboo to gamble on baseball, and they need to find some sort of way to get gamblers interested in the sport. And I think that'll help the ratings a lot.
Yep.
Right.
I just think the times have changed. Though. I mean, it used to be that 50 years ago, you'd go back, you'd bring a scorecard, you'd bring your glove, it'd be a family affair to go to a baseball game, and you love that 3.5, 4 hours. Now you don't want that. You want high-paced, fast-paced. The NBA has changed. The NFL has changed due to their rules. Now the MLB is like, we got to jump on this bandwagon. How can we change the rules to make a bunch of pussies out of our league and then get money? I mean, even last year you saw it with the no collisions at home plate. That's a joke to me. Like, I don't get how you can do that. And it's all about player safety. They don't want to get fined in 20 years. It's a joke to me.
I definitely think that baseball is it's a totally different game when you're in the stadium. And I mean, like, that's true of any sport, really, but, like, if you're a casual baseball fan, being at a baseball game is so much better than watching it on TV as opposed to the other two sports where if you're a casual fan. Like, if you're a casual fan of football, going to an NFL game isn't really that much better, and sometimes it's worse than watching it on TV because the NFL's kind of screwed itself and made it such a good television product that it's almost worse, you know. But, like, you know, baseball, like you said, it's you go to the park, you know, you're there for the atmosphere, for the whole experience of going to a baseball game. You're not necessarily there for the game itself.
Yep. I agree 100%. Even as a hardcore baseball fan, I'd still much rather go to the park every day and watch it on a TV. Whereas an NFL fan, I'd like to have that experience maybe 1 or 2 games a year going to a Patriots game. But other than that, I want to sit on my couch with my nachos and just chill and watch constant.
The AFC Championship game was fucking awesome, by the way.
Yeah, sit on the couch with my beers that aren't $12 each.
Hey, man, $10.
Right. And not to mention, I mean, you got Red Zone now. That's not helping the at the ballpark or at the field experience either. All fans want to watch every game while it's going on, so no one wants to go and see their own team.
You can tell that fantasy and, like, that kind of stuff is driving the NFL right now because so many teams are just pumping money into increased bandwidth in their stadium so that they have Wi-Fi and people can get on their tablets and their phones or whatever and check their fantasy scores. It's crazy.
Yep, I completely agree. So, what do you guys think about Cashman? Oh, that's the Yankee fans. Cashman wants the Yankees to retire the captaincy with Derek Jeter. Do you guys think that it's a good idea, or do you think it'll even stay past this year?
I don't know. I think it would be hard to have another captain, and it'll probably happen eventually, and it'll be like one of those things that's a big stink in the off season just because there's nothing else to talk about or something stupid. But I don't think it. I think it's just kind of a tribute to Jeter right now that they're, you know.
Because he didn't get enough of that last year.
Well, I mean, he was really the identity of our team completely for the last few years. I mean, so it's just another nod to him. Is that better?
Yeah. You got a whole year of broadcasters verbally filleting him on air. It was fantastic.
I actually kind of didn't like that because we had just gone through that with Rivera, and I was
yeah, it was
we
like
really
too
have
much
to do
too
this
soon.
again. Like
even as a Red Sox fan, I respect the hell out of Jeter, but halfway through the year, I was like, oh my God, we get it. Just fucking retire already.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. As for the Cashman comment, it's not something you're going to actually retire. I mean, you've had great captains all the way up through from, like, Mattingly. No one thought, you know, he'd change you. Thurman Munson, no one thought there'd be a captain after Munson. It's just a joke. There's not going to be a captain for, like, 3 or 4 or 5 years, but that's not unnormal in baseball. Right now, they don't have a young guy to really take that for the next 15 years. Maybe if Cano was still there, you would have gave it to him. But they have no one to carry that torch, and why would you give it to a guy that's going to have it for a year and then be like, all right, you're out of here. Let's get another captain.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not like
Yeah.
the captains in baseball really serve a role like they do in football or hockey, you know what I mean? Like in football, they go out for the coin toss. They're the ones who talk to the refs. In hockey, same thing. You know, in baseball, it's just kind of a title.
Right. I mean, you look at the Red Sox. Once Veritek was gone, you could have done
Have they
Pedroia
had a
or
captain
Ortiz. No. No, it could be Pedroia or Ortiz, but they just don't do it. I think it's just a dying thing in baseball. It's usually only the older clubs that are still doing it too, like the Cubs, Red Sox, and Yankees were some of the last ones, but more of a symbolic gesture that I think is dying out in baseball. But yeah, obviously the Yankees wouldn't give it to anyone because they don't have anyone good enough on their team, so that kind of makes sense.
No, I just what I just said. That was my exact comment. We have no one to give it to.
And you have no prospects either, so that'll be a long time before you give it to somebody.
All right,
Give
all
it to
right.
Pineda as long as he keeps using pine tar.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
All right. So a more controversial topic. Maybe we can yell some. Kurt Schilling's Twitter escapades. I'm sure most people have heard about it from now, but so Kurt Schilling basically commented that he was proud of his daughter for going to a university to pitch softball or play softball. I don't know what she does, but to play softball at a certain university, and a bunch of guys. Well, not a bunch, but a few guys were
Quite a
very.
few. I mean, it's
Yeah,
Twitter.
we're very right, but we're very bad about it. Very. There's rape jokes, talking about penetrating her with a bat, stuff like that. Some pretty serious stuff. Not just your normal, like, hey, I'll take care of her type of stuff, which he did get and he expected to get, but there were some pretty serious ones too. So he basically, on his blog, called them out, found out things about them on the internet, and then posted it on his blog for the world to see. And some of the guys got fired, and some of the guys got kicked off their baseball teams and stuff like that. So anyone want to jump in and start that conversation?
All right, I guess that's me. So, first off, the people who said that stuff deserve everything they get. If they got fired, whatever, fine. I do agree that it's about time that some of the nameless keyboard warriors who sit behind their computer screens and type horrible, horrible, horrible things about people, it's about time they face some real-world repercussions. So I'm fine with that. Where I take issue with it is that I don't think Kurt Schilling should be the poster child of this backlash movement when he himself is an internet bully. He's like one of the softest-skinned people on Twitter. You say anything about his failed company, about how he screwed the taxpayers of Rhode Island out of a couple $1 million, and he immediately is like, "Oh, how about you and your 8 followers go to hell? You know, I'll come down there and kick your ass." And he just he's a hypocrite, is what he is. Granted, the stuff that was said towards his daughter is way out of line and not justified in the least. But like that people are praising him as some sort of like Twitter hero is just ridiculous to me when you actually look at his history on Twitter and with how he's essentially just an internet bully.
I mean, I agree that he's definitely takes it too far. I think the thing is, though, I don't think he would have written his blog, or even brought anything up if he had just got the normal cyberbullying comments that he also returns back to people. I don't think it would have been anything. I think when it went over the line and you started talking about rape and stuff like that, that's when he took it to a new level.
But
and I think people are kind of raising him on a pedestal because athletes are taught to ignore it when I think that it would be better to actually fight it. And maybe there are dads out there whose daughters have been verbally assaulted on Twitter, and it would be nice and it'd be good for them to realize that, hey, there is stuff you can do online and go find out, and so that these guys can get punishment. So I think that's where it's a good side of what Schilling did. And like I said, I don't think any of this comes out if nothing happens.
Here's the thing though, like you made a comment about like the normal cyber stuff that comes out on Twitter. that's Twitter. When you're a high-profile guy and you're talking about your, let's face it, attractive daughter, that's what you're gonna get. It's a sad, sad reflection of the world we live in and what Twitter has done to that. But that's normal for that kind of stuff.
Right, but it shouldn't be normal. So that's why I think he's held on a pedestal. Is that he actually took? That's like saying, some girl is wearing a skirt, and so she just happened to get raped. But that's what happens when you wear a skirt. It's just commonplace. So no one should really take action. It's fine.
I'm not saying he shouldn't be taking action. I don't know. I still think he's a hypocrite, or he's being like unfairly touted as this, like fucking Batman of Twitter, who's just taking justice into his own hands, when he's been just as guilty of.
I don't think just as guilty. I don't think he ever put it to that level. I think that's the difference. I don't think he goes after anyone that just says, "Hey, can I take your daughter out?" or "Hey, I'll look after her." Like some.
Well, he did, because there were guys who said some fairly mild stuff like that, and he was like, "Why don't you send me your address and I'll drive down there and kick the snot out of you."
Well, he said he said one of the guys he replied back and said, "I know some Marines. Why don't you give me your address so I can send some Marines to your door?" Like,
right.
I think that's the opposite of soft skin. I think that's giving it back. I mean, if people are trolling you, so you just give it back right back to them. I think that's more fun than just ignoring them.
More fun, yes, but that's not being thick-skinned.
Well, I think it is, because you're just having fun with them. It's when you take it personally that it's soft skin.
But that's what.
If you take it personally,
okay, maybe he's not taking it personally, but that's how he sounds. He's like every little guy who says something, he turns it into a personal attack.
I think he's just having fun. I mean, he says in his blog that that's what he expects on Twitter.
He's full of shit. Kurt Schilling's an asshole.
Like Greg said, I think Kurt Schilling's one of the biggest hypocrites today. Like I said earlier, he's the modern-day Jose Canseco. 20 years from now, he'll write a book on how his bloody sock was a pack of ketchup, whether it's true or not, to sell money. Because he can't do anything else because his business sucks. If he took as much time as he does on Twitter with his fucking video game business, maybe he would still be running. But he doesn't. The one thing I do want to say, though, is 2 days after International Women's Day, I think this is a great thing to mention, that women in sports matter. All right, and when guys say these atrocious comments, these very degrading comments, it is just terrible light on sports and on the male nature. All right, I don't agree with it. You shouldn't do it. And, I mean, women are in magazines. You're seeing more of that. Women don't get justified as being athletes when, I mean, they're far better than probably all of us. I mean, if I ever played against Skylar Diggins, she'd dunk on my ass. I'm just saying, I don't get why you're not giving this girl credit. All right, if we went up in the batter's box, she'd strike us out. Great. After you strike me out, I'll take you on a date, but you don't need to be rude about it. All right, I don't get it. I think what they said was very wrong, and hopefully they all get punished. But again, you're also going to have that due to what Greg said about our nature as a society. So I don't know how you change that, but I'm liking that steps are always being made to change that for a better equal environment in sports.
Well, I think that's why people are looking at Schilling as the guy who's starting it. Because you don't hear, maybe other guys have, but he's the first high-profile guy who's had someone attack him on a serious level like that, and then instead of just blocking him and being like, oh, that's just Twitter, he didn't accept that. He said, no, I'm going after these guys, and I'm going to let everyone know I'm going after these guys. And I think that's the good part of what he did, whether or not he is a hypocrite or not. At least he did something where most athletes wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, and like I said, if this was anybody other than Schilling, I probably wouldn't have had this reaction to it. But it's just like, I've followed Schilling for a while, and I've followed articles and stuff about how someone will troll him about his company or whatever, and he'll just go off, and and that was like 6 months, a year ago, he would be doing this crap. So to then see him do essentially the same thing, just in a different setting, but have every major media outlet in the world call him a hero for it, it was like, pump the brakes. Might not be the poster child you're looking for. That's all I'm saying. The issue itself, it's the awareness that's been raised over it is fantastic, and if this incident does help keep those people from saying that kind of shit on Twitter, then good on him. It worked out for the best. But that's my whole point, is that Schilling's an asshole.
I would worry that with the overreaction and all the hype and stuff, it would only make it worse. With how internet trolls are. I mean, it's only going to. I think in general, the actual attitude, kind of what Ryan was getting at, the actual attitude towards women in sports, it's probably better for that. As for harassment, I wouldn't be surprised if you see more at Curt Schilling.
I don't think you will, because every time someone does, he's had guys who after he came out with a blog go after his daughter again, saying something about it and being worse than the other guys, and he just looks into their. I mean, he got more guys kicked off their baseball teams, and like university baseball teams, scholarship program baseball teams. He got them kicked off.
I'm not talking about people who are even on teams, though. I'm just talking about random asshole internet trolls, basically. People who have nothing, hiding anonymously, that kind of shit.
Right. If you're hiding anonymously, but that's the thing with Twitter, is there's a lot of people that aren't hiding anonymously. Well, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say.
He still fucks it up.
Yeah. That most of the people on Twitter, when they do comment and try to troll you, I mean, you can look up all their information right on their Twitter page, and it'll be linked to like websites and stuff even. So I think that's the difference with like Twitter and like your random comment in like some thread somewhere. So I think that's where it'll help.
More to Ryan's point, though, like it's like the third world country basically that is women's sports. It is a little bit embarrassing because the quality of the product is definitely coming up. We have the Women's World Cup this summer, which is in Canada. The U.S. is the favorite to win it all. No one cares. The Boston Blades, the women's professional hockey team, just won their cup. The NFL or the NHL didn't even mention it. Why isn't the NHL partnering with them? You've got. I mean, right now the biggest progress you're seeing is in mixed martial arts because Ronda Rousey is an animal. But even then, you watch a Rousey fight and you can hear people in the crowd like "make out" and like shit like that. Like it's this casual, like demeaning towards female athletes that hopefully will change, but I don't know. It's embarrassing, really.
Yeah, it has to be an entire societal shift.
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean,
and it's not going to happen overnight, obviously.
Right. No. All right. So I don't know how much time we have left. We probably shouldn't take up too much time. Is there any quick notes anyone wants to make on NHL or NBA talk before we head out?
No, I think we can save that for another day.
All right. Everyone's good?
Thanks, though.
I'm good for now.
Thanks, anyone who watched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom.
Like us or not, we'll be back next week.
Right. That's that. Okay, so that ends our first episode, and hopefully everything goes well with the stuff that happened. And we'll see you guys next week. So this is Minor League Maine-iacs signing out.